Bulking is the video topic for this video. I did mention it in a couple of my weekly vlogs and especially on my Instagram, but I thought I'd dedicate one whole entire video to it to basically give you a bit of an outline on how I'm doing it, what I'm doing, how it actually works if you're uninformed about bulking typically, and just a general outline of my bulking process. Before I get into the questions, because this is a Q&A type of video, I wanted to actually just address my journey as a whole because as many of you guys know, I went through an eating disorder and I did heavily document that on my Instagram and on my YouTube channel. So to then now say that I'm going through this bulking process, which is quite ironic in the sense, I just feel like I need to explain myself even though I don't feel like I have to explain myself. But if you are unfamiliar with who I am or what I'm about and all that jazz, I had an eating disorder and I went through that through a couple of years actually without actually intentionally knowing that I had, until I came to terms with it and I addressed it, did something about it, and it gradually unfolded from that eating disorder and recovered from my bad relationship with food. We have now sustained a really good relationship with food for some time now that I feel like I am in a healthy state where I can go on to doing bulking, and I truly feel like I'm ready and have the mindset to, whereas before when I tried to bulk, even though I had an eating disorder and my mind just wasn't right there, it really didn't go to plan because I didn't have that healthy relationship with food. So what I'm saying, I guess, is before you start something like this, you really have to address your relationship with food and really fix that before you embark on this kind of journey per se. By the way, I have come to Costa Coffee because whenever I do these Q&A videos, I do drive myself to a Costa Coffee drive-through to purposely drive through the drive-through and get myself a almond milk cappuccino. I drive past so many Costas along the way and I do not park up and go in. I go through the drive-through. I just don't question it. I just love going through the drive-through, and it's the only one that's nearby me. Bulking is a process that you go through where you put yourself in a calorie surplus in an attempt to build muscle over a sustained period of time, and that period of time isn't going to be a month, it's not going to be a week, it's not going to be a short-term process, it's going to be a very long-term thing for your body to be able to gradually grow and adapt to the changes that you're making. And it's not one of these things where you can just eat and then expect something to happen. You need to also have a good training program in place, which I am trained by my boyfriend. He does online training, he's a monocontorian, he has a personal training app that I use and he trains me on, and in conjunction with that, with my calorie surplus, I use that to have hand in hand to try and attempt to build muscle. Now, a lot of the videos that I've made in the past has heavily been based on my eating disorder, my relationship with my body and my relationship with my food, and I really just want to make clear that I'm not doing this because I hate my body. I am purely doing this because I want to challenge my body, I want to progress in my exercises, and I do just really want to build stronger, which is what a couple of the questions are about in terms of what are you going to do after your bulking process. You not want to be the leanest bean,
I want to be the Hulk.
and that's pretty much it. So that is what I'm documenting. Anything you're finding hard, surprising with bulking? So it is obviously hard knowing that you're really increasing your food intake and pushing yourself to eat a little bit more, but it is also a positive thing and good knowing that you're doing that to be able to fuel your training and work harder in the gym. So they just both go hand in hand. So I haven't really struggled in the sense because I know that it is fueling my body and fueling my training on top of that also. So it's a really positive thing more than anything, whereas in the past I would really struggle with trying to eat a lot because I just couldn't connect with the idea of fueling my body, fueling my training and gaining weight at the same time and being happy with that. Whereas now I really just do not care how much I weigh and I know I'm making progress in the gym, so it is really fabulous. Why did you decide to start bulking? A good question. I was basically thinking about my goals for the year and I was just thinking I have not set myself a fitness goal in quite some time, and it's purely because I kind of was like stagnant with my goals in terms of fitness because I was trying to address my relationship with my food and my relationship with my body. But as I came to terms with that, I then had this idea of I want to try and build as much muscle as I possibly can, and the only really way to do that is going through bulking, because genuinely it is a scientific fact that if you are in a calorie surplus over a period of time and you're progressively overloading on your lifts, you are going to build muscle, you know. So it's just a basic fact that I think sometimes people struggle with because of the idea of counting calories and tracking macros, which I also want to point out, if that is not for you, it is probably not the best thing to go through. So I'm not forcing anyone to do this, I'm just documenting my journey, that now that I've reached this really healthy state in terms of my mental ability. What is the main reasons you are going on your bulk? You are beautiful, by the way. That is so kind of you, Jade, thank you so much. I kind of addressed that in the previous question, but it is genuinely to try and build muscle. Like I say, I want to be the whole. How is your physical energy in the gym lifting? I feel like I'm heavier and harder to train, which I kind of get in some certain lifts. For example, like pull-ups and stuff, you may struggle to like train as much as you could with your lighter self, if that makes sense, which, you know, it's all just about pushing yourself and adapting to that change and working on your strength. And that's really what bulking is all about, to just really challenge your mind, your body, and push yourself to the best of your ability. And that isn't like an unhealthy thing, that is really just a healthy state to be in terms of positively challenging your body to make yourself feel stronger, rather than focusing just on the physical change purely. Will you throw out your old clothes if they don't fit? Admittedly, I haven't gone through my wardrobe, and that's purely because I'm mainly in gym wear anyways, and I do order the correct size from my Gymshark form that I receive. But I do know that some clothing from just a year ago really just does not fit me, and I haven't really thrown out because I have been lazy in terms of decluttering my wardrobe. But I did previously do a video where I decluttered my video, but that was quite some time ago, and I was definitely much smaller then. So to think what it's like now, I'll probably have to take out quite a piece of clothing, which I'm not really upset about, because I've learnt, now that I've fixed my relationship with my food and my body, that the clothing size doesn't have to fit me. I've got to fit into the clothing that I want to fit in, if that makes sense. Like, you're not bounded by a certain size, and whether you're a size 6, size 8, size 10, it doesn't really matter, because clothing size always differs from shop to shop, and it's just how the material is made, and it shouldn't get you down or anything like that. Were you scared when gaining weight that your boyfriend wouldn't like your body anymore? And I actually received this question a couple of times, and one actually pointed out that they're currently going through that. And I just want to say, from my point of view and from my experience, my boyfriend has never put me down for gaining weight. He actually prefers me gaining weight, so I guess it is down to the male's preference, but at the same time, you should not care what he thinks to a certain degree, you know. Like, he should be happy with you at all stages of life. Your body is never going to stay the same, and personally I would be really quite offended if someone was basically telling me that they didn't like me anymore because of my body weight. Like, it's quite disturbing to think about that, and you know, it's a quite touchy subject, but I firmly believe like your partner should be there for you throughout, and Armando really has shown that throughout my journey. Well, yeah, I really did shrink to the bare minimum, and he's still stuck by my side, and as I gain weight, he's still stuck by my side, and he's always been there for me and supported me. And I don't like, I don't want you to compare your relationship to mine or whatever, but I'm just saying that, yeah, your partner really should be there for you in true support, and he should just support everything that you do, and likewise for him. So yeah, that's my answer to that, if that answers your question or not. What do you do on the days you feel full but haven't reached your daily caloric intake goal? I am tracking my calories now and my macros, which in the past I had a really addictive relationship, an unhealthy relationship with doing that, but now I've come to terms with using it as a tool and purely that fact, and not get myself too down about it, and also actually living my life alongside that and really not prioritizing it if life gets in the way. I do track my calories and macros, and I try to stick to it as much as I can to the best of my ability, but like I say, very lightly, but having dedication to it as well at the same time. And I purely do that because, like I say, if you're doing it strategically and you really want to make progress, this process of being in the calorie surplus along with your training, etc, does really go hand in hand with your progress that you make. But in terms of my full like feeling, my satisfaction, I did actually speak about this with my boyfriend and a couple of my friends, and sometimes I do feel full and I still have like calories left or like food on my plate, and I don't push myself to the point where like I'm gonna be ill. I eat as much as I can, and I have in mind like what I need to eat, because that is gonna help me progress more. But if there are days where I am really like pushing it, I am gonna listen to my body at the same time. So I guess it is a bit of intuitivity, but at the same time I'm using this kind of guideline as a tool as well. How often should I train while bulking? Like I said, there is a training program that you should have in place when trying to start a bulk, and that really depends on the person to person, especially with different lifestyle factors. Personally, I train 5 times a week because that is what is well suited to me, and I love training 5 times a week. I do a lower body session, upper, lower, upper and lower each week. But then again, if life gets in the way or there are certain scenarios where I can't achieve that, I am going to compromise and not get myself too down about it. The progress is never linear. There are going to be bumps and lumps all along the way, but the idea of gradually progressing should stay through and through, rather than getting yourself down about it and not doing like it at all. It's not all or nothing, it's just a progressive change. What part of your body you think has changed the most so far? So to give you a little bit of context, I am 1 month into a bulk, and this actual bulk is going to last around 6 months. I'm going to end the bulk in June, and from then afterwards, which is another question, I'm going to stay at maintenance. So I'm hoping to see a lot of progress after that 6-month period, and I can reevaluate and see what I should go through then. But during this 1 month period, I really haven't seen a lot of progress per se, because like 1 month is a very short period of time. But I have noticed a slight difference in my legs and my overall strength in my quads as well, which is a very positive thing for me. And I want to start a bulking phase, but ED is complicated. Any suggestions? And my suggestions is not to bulk. It's not to track your calories. It's literally to recover first and change your relationship with your food. Learn that you need to be able to do that before you can step onto something like this, because really it's really not just gonna be a healthy thing for you to do. And although someone else might be doing it, doesn't mean that you have to do it too. And just realize also that you fixing this in the long run is going to help you and benefit you more than trying to go through this and it ruining your mental health, if that makes sense. So that's essentially what I did before. I tried to step onto this bulking journey, but I knew that it was just going to flop because I really didn't have a good relationship with food, and hence I didn't see any progress because I was fearful of eating that much food. I just made myself get worse over it and ended up just doing a calorie deficit because I was scared of gaining weight, and once I gained weight I'd be in more of a calorie deficit. So overall you just really need to fix your relationship with food more than anything. And I do have a whole like weight gain journey video playlist. Are you tracking food or bulking intuitively? Which may come as a shock for some, but I am tracking my food, and I don't want anyone really to be alarmed by it because it is my life after all. And I know through and through my relationship with my food, as I've addressed plenty of times in this video. I can reassure you I am in such a good state of mind, and I don't know if that has come across in my videos recently or you've seen it over time, but I just don't want anyone to be comparing themselves to me, because we're going to be on different stages of our recovery. If you are going through recovery or you're not going through recovery, like there is so much information online that you kind of just have to take with a pinch of salt sometimes. And if someone's doing something, it doesn't mean that you've got to do it as well. So I am tracking my food, but I'm doing it with a passion of wanting to grow muscle, if that makes sense. How do I figure out how much to eat? I did address what bulking is, but I kind of didn't really like address how to start. I would really say to get in contact with like a personal trainer, and they can help you. Bearing in mind that there are a lot of dodgy personal trainers, but Amano is a great person to talk to actually, not even being biased. He is actually a really good person to talk to in terms of how to start. But if I were to give you like the foundations, you basically go onto an app called Macros, which is what he uses for myself and many of his clients, and he calculates based on the individual what they should be eating to be able to grow muscle, and that will change over a period of time as well to be able to go hand in hand with your training and your change that your body is making gradually. But once you calculate that on the Macros app, it will give you a set figure, and you start to eat that caloric number and the macros that they're giving you to be able to do it for your individual circumstance. And like I say, gradually that will change, and the best way to do it, instead of reverse dieting, it's kind of like the opposite. You gradually increase your calories to adapt with your training style and change that your body is making every 2 to 3 weeks, depending on your change and your progression, by around like 50 to 100 calories slowly. And this is so that you slowly adapt with the changes rather than rushing into it and doing this massive bulk, which you're clearly, it's gonna like shock your body. Any like spike in intake for anything, sugar, calories, whatever, is going to shock your body, and you don't really want to shock your body. You want to do it progressively. And once you have that set number, I use MyFitnessPal. It can be someone's worst enemy sometimes, but like I say, I use it as a tool, and I have not once during this time let it get me down or bug me or stress about it or have any anxiety over this silly app. It's purely just to track my macros and have it as face value. But yes, you use MyFitnessPal. Now I would set all the values to 0, because the thing that they calculate for you is a load of rubbish, and just go based off the macros app calculation, and then day by day you track your calories, you do your training, and you see progression over time. Do you weigh yourself and or measurements to track your progress? So I don't actually weigh myself at all. I don't really see it as the only way to track your progress. Instead, I take progress pictures, which I really find the most beneficial, and I think that it is the most beneficial. So if you do it every once a month, which Amando aids me to do, it's basically like a check-in day. I just take pictures from my side profile, my front profile, my back profile, and over time you will see slight changes in your body visually rather than numerically, because if you're too heavy focus on numbers, especially when weight fluctuations are really crazy sometimes, it's gonna bug you to some certain extent. So I just wouldn't use a numeric weight figure as a way of like using it as your progression kind of thing. Pictures are always the way forward. Someone might tell you differently, because you know, numbers are numbers, but purely I personally take pictures every month or every so often, and you will see a change in your body. How to know when to increase calories. Been on a calorie surplus for a while and training glutes hard 2 to 3 times a week but ain't growing. So this really depends on your training style and how much you're eating and whether you've actually increase your calories or not. If you're training hard and not seeing results and you've increased your calories, you need to increase them more to be able to see change. Like if your body is not growing on the calories that you have, that obviously means that it's reached just some plateau, for example, or has reached this maintenance figure that has adapted to that calorie set, that now you have to just increase it a little bit more gradually over time. As I was saying, 50 to 100 calories every 2 to 3 weeks. That's my rough guideline, but it really just depends on the person to person. And like you say, you're not seeing results after doing 2 to 3 times a week. So I would see that as a time to try to increase your calories and experiment with it. It's all about experimenting really, because if you're not willing to experiment to a certain degree, you have this fear of experimenting, which you shouldn't have that fear. You should just try it, and if it doesn't work out, you just go back to your normal routine. It's all about experimenting really, and just learning to adapt with your body and your mind. How are you feeling about the bulk so far? By the way, I love your content. You are awesome. You are just as fabulous, gal. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it, and I really do appreciate you guys' support. Honestly, like just your overall support over a year has been crazy. That you've stuck by me in everything that I've done, so hopefully you're gonna stick by me by doing this bulk. I really know that some people are not gonna like the way I do things, or I'm not gonna be everyone's cup of tea, but like I've said, you can't be everyone's cup of tea, unfortunately. Even though I'm such a people pleaser and I love everyone in the world, but not everyone loves me, sadly. So how are you feeling about the bulk? I'm feeling fabulous about it. I am absolutely loving the strength that I'm building, the weight that I'm gaining, which that has never come out of my mouth ever, but I am loving the weight that I'm gaining. Honestly, I'm looking better than ever. And it really isn't about just appearance, because I'm feeling stronger than ever as well. But to be confident in my own body at probably the highest weight I've ever been is crazy to me. Like, I feel very proud of myself, and it's it's very good to feel proud in yourself, if that makes sense. How to deal with bad body image days. So in saying that, obviously everybody has bad body image days and it's completely normal to have that as well. I would really say not to get yourself too down about it and see the larger picture. There are very anomaly days throughout your weeks or months sometimes, and that's okay. Like, you learn to live through that and just accept you're having a bad day and move on from that, you know? And I know that's easier to say than actually going through it, but if you adapt your mind to just accepting things like I've done in my life, accepting a lot of things that has changed in my life, then you will learn gradually to overcome things much quicker, if that makes sense. I'm afraid to increase my calories and gain too much fat. Help. Part of the process is gonna make you gain fat, and you really have to accept that. You really just do have to accept that, and you shouldn't be scared. And if you are scared, you need to fix that again before you go and progress, because you shouldn't be scared. You should know that this is a process and there are going to be highs and lows. And for you, for instance, gaining too much fat might be a bit of a low, but at the same time, you are aiding the process of muscle building. So overall, you should see the bigger picture as being more of a benefit rather than a disadvantage to you. How to deal with bloating. Bloating after eating food is normal, but if it's kind of bloating where it's hurting you, you need to get that checked out. I think bloating is so normalized on Instagram nowadays. You see a lot of these posts, but there is quite a fine line. Like, if you are hurting from this bloat that you're experiencing, that actually might be an issue. Like, bloating after being full is completely normal, because your body is showing that you're full and you've eaten a lot of food that you're satisfied with, and you know, you're fueling your body. But like I say, if it's hurting you, definitely get that checked. What are your macros? So I was guaranteed to get this question, really, and I just want to like make an emphasis on, like, this is what I'm currently eating. For me, a 5 foot small person, the way I train, my lifestyle, and all these different little factors that play into it, and it's not for you guys to take and copy, if that makes sense. So I'm currently eating 2,450 calories. I am eating roughly around 270 grams of carbs, around 70 grams of fat, and 150 grams of protein. And I say that roughly because some days are different than others. I just try to stick to it to the best of my ability, but I am only at the start of my bulking process. I did start at 2,300 and I've gradually increased since then, and I will continue to increase to a certain number also. Tracking macros versus calories. Also, how do you track when you eat out? So tracking calories is exactly the same as tracking macros. Like, it's a hand-in-hand process. There's not really a difference. Like, if you're tracking your calories, you're tracking your macros also. Like, that is the best way to see results also. But in terms of how I track when I'm eating out, it really depends, because when I have a full day of eating out, for example, if I'm away, I may not necessarily track at all. Yeah, it just really depends. Like, I'm not very strict with it in a sense, but if I'm in my day-to-day routine, I would track, because I'm just in my day-to-day routine. But if it's going to be an inconvenience for me, or it's going to just stress me out, I just don't do it, and just realize that it's a short period of time I'm doing that for, and I can always get back to it when I'm back home, and it's not going to change anything in terms of my progress or whatever. I tend to roughly estimate what is in the food, or if the restaurant has calories on the menu, because in the UK that is a thing now, I then just go off that guideline. But I know roughly that's not going to be the most accurate figure, because they don't weigh their food in restaurants as well. So, like, is it really accurate? Not really, but I'll take it as face value and just have my meal. At the same time, sometimes I don't want to know what my calories are, and I just want to enjoy my meal, not knowing what the calories are. So I'll do that sometimes too. So it really just depends on the certain circumstance. I really hope this video has been informative and kind of like an insight into how my bulk is going, what I'm going through, how I'm going about it, and etc, etc. I think I really have addressed the foundations and gone through bits of information that may become of value to you. So this will be heavily documented on my YouTube, it'll be heavily documented on my Instagram. So if you just want to follow along with that too and just see how it all pans out, then definitely subscribe to my YouTube channel and my Instagram, because there'll be loads of information along the way. I'm going to drink the rest of this cappuccino that is left, hit my leg session that I have planned for today, and have some good lunch.